Okay, let's get into this. You know that feeling. Maybe it's a constant tingling in your feet
Hmm.
or sometimes a burning.
Or even that weird sensation like your feet aren't really, well, yours anymore.
Exactly. And look, for a lot of men, this isn't just some random thing. It's neuropathy, nerve damage.
Right. Down there in your feet.
And it can make something really simple, like just walking around, feel, I don't know, worrying. You might even find yourself kind of watching where you step, almost hesitant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So today we're doing a deep dive into neuropathy, specifically how it impacts men, and the really critical role footwear plays. It's actually quite surprising how important it is.
It really is. And I think what's crucial for men to grasp about neuropathy, particularly in the feet, is how that loss of sensation can hide problems.
Hide them. How so?
Well, imagine you get a small stone in your shoe or maybe a blister starts forming.
Okay.
If you don't have full sensation, you might not feel it at all. What's just a minor annoyance for someone else could, become a really serious issue if it just sits there unnoticed.
That's a really good point. It's that hidden danger, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what makes this so important to talk about. We're not just discussing being uncomfortable.
No, not at all.
We're talking real risk, injuries you don't detect. And those can lead to some pretty serious complications down the line.
Foot ulcers being a major one.
Yeah, foot ulcers. Those open sores, they can take forever to heal. And here's a stat that, honestly, it's quite stark. Nearly 34% of people with diabetes end up developing a foot ulcer at some point.
Wow, that's almost 1 in 3.
Right. So
Okay.
for men who are managing neuropathy, figuring out how to prevent these ulcers, it's paramount.
And if you think about men's health overall, these ulcers, they're not trivial. They're a huge pathway to infections.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, they're a leading reason for non-traumatic amputations. Plus, if you've had one ulcer before, your risk of getting another one just shoots way up.
So the cycle can be really hard to break.
Exactly. Which is why being proactive, with daily foot checks and really paying attention to your footwear,
Right.
it's absolutely essential.
Okay, so that brings us to our mission for this deep dive, for you listening. It's focused, and we think it's vital. We've sifted through the research, including a really interesting study protocol we found from 2022.
Oh yeah, the Ahmed study.
That's the one. They were looking specifically at how footwear and even insole design can be like a powerful tool to stop these ulcers from happening.
Right. Prevention is key.
So we're going to pull out the key takeaways, the practical advice, tailored for men dealing with neuropathy. The goal is to help you cut through the confusion around footwear.
There's a lot out there.
There is. And we want to arm you with the knowledge to make good choices, informed choices for better foot health, and honestly, just to keep you moving comfortably and feeling confident on your feet.
That Ahmed study you mentioned, it really zeroes in on a core idea, reducing pressure.
Pressure on the sole of the foot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially on the ball of the foot, that's the plantar forefoot area. Reducing that pressure is basically the cornerstone of preventing these neuropathic ulcers.
Preventing them from starting or from coming back if you've had one.
Both, actually. Their research was designed pretty carefully to try and pinpoint which features in shoes and insoles really work best to get that pressure down.
And that just highlights something critical, doesn't it?
Hmm.
For men with neuropathy, the right shoes aren't a luxury. They're not just about comfort.
No, they're protection, a
Yeah.
fundamental layer.
Yeah. Because when the feeling in your feet is reduced, your shoes basically become your first line of defense against, well, against everything you walk on that you might not even feel properly.
The main goal of what we often call therapeutic footwear is essentially to act like a shock absorber and a pressure distributor.
Okay.
So instead of all your weight landing hard on one potentially small, vulnerable spot because the nerves aren't working right,
Right, creating a pressure point.
the shoe helps spread that force out more evenly across the whole sole.
Now, you mentioned the research pinpointing things. Did they get specific about pressure levels?
They did, actually. This was quite interesting. They identified a specific threshold, keeping the peak pressure, particularly on the ball of the foot, below 200 kilopascals.
The kilopascals, that's the unit of pressure.
Yes. Keeping it below that 200 kPa mark seems to be a really critical target for stopping those ulcers, whether it's the first time or preventing recurrence.
Okay, 200 kPa, that's a concrete number, something you could potentially aim for with the right footwear design.
It is. But there's another crucial piece, something the study also emphasizes.
What's that?
It's about actually wearing the shoes. You can have the most advanced, perfectly designed therapeutic shoe in the world.
Uh-huh.
But if it just sits in the closet because it's uncomfortable, or maybe you feel it looks clunky or just not something you want to put on,
It does zero good.
exactly, all those protective benefits are completely lost. So this really brings home the point that finding footwear that hits both targets therapeutic and appealing, comfortable and maybe even stylish.
Is incredibly important for actually sticking with it long term.
Absolutely. Adherence is key for good outcomes.
Okay. So for the men listening who are navigating this, what specific features should they really be looking for in a shoe? Let's break down some of the most important ones. First up, extra depth. What does that really mean practically?
Right, extra depth. Think of it simply as more vertical room inside the shoe.
More height.
Yeah, more height from the insole up to the top of the shoe. For men with neuropathy, this extra space is useful for a couple of big reasons. First, it makes room for custom orthotics.
Ah, those special inserts a podiatrist might prescribe.
Precisely, those need space. Second, just having more volume overall reduces the chance of pressure on sensitive spots, areas that might be prone to breaking down into an ulcer. It avoids that squeezed, constricted feeling.
Makes sense, especially with inserts.
Okay, next feature, seamless interiors. Sounds simple, but why is that specifically important for neuropathic feet?
Because of that reduced sensation we talked about.
Okay.
Even a tiny seam, maybe a rough bit of stitching inside the shoe rubbing against the
You
skin.
might not feel it. You might not feel it until damage is already done, until a wound or a blister has started. Seamless interiors just get rid of those potential friction points. They create a smooth, safe environment inside the shoe.
That seems like such a critical detail, but
Yeah.
easily missed if you're not looking for it.
It really can be a game changer in preventing those unnoticed little injuries that can escalate.
Got it. Okay, another one. Wide toe boxes. Now, tight shoes are bad news for anyone, but why is extra room for the toes specifically beneficial for men managing neuropathy?
Well, a wide toe box lets your toes lie flat, spread out naturally, without being crammed together.
Right.
This matters for neuropathy for a couple of reasons. First, any squeezing or compression can actually irritate those already damaged nerves. It could potentially make symptoms like pain or tingling even worse.
Okay, don't want that.
No. And second, pressure in the toe box can contribute to foot deformities over time, things like hammer toes or bunions. And those deformities, they create new pressure points, new areas that become vulnerable.
So the wide toe box prevents irritation and helps avoid creating new problems.
Pretty much. It gives the toes the space they need, reducing those risks, promoting better overall foot structure.
Okay. And the last key feature on our list, supportive midsoles. We hear about midsoles in running shoes, but why are they important here?
Supportive midsoles bring stability. They help reduce strain when you're moving. And remember, neuropathy isn't always just sensory.
Meaning?
It can sometimes affect the motor nerves, too. That can lead to muscle weakness in the feet or ankles.
Ah, I see.
So a supportive midsole can help compensate for some of that weakness. It provides better arch support, helps keep your foot aligned properly as you walk. Basically, it reduces excessive, potentially harmful motion in feet that might already be compromised.
So it sounds like it's really the combination of all these things working together, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The extra space, the smoothness inside, the cushioning, the room for the toes, and that underlying support. That's what creates this protective bubble for feet with neuropathy.
It is, and like we said, the research backs up that making these shoes comfortable, making them something you'll actually wear, maybe even look decent. That's a huge part of the equation.
That patient-centric design idea.
Exactly. Footwear that meets the therapeutic needs but also fits the person's life, their preferences, even just what they think looks okay.
Yeah.
That's the footwear that gets worn consistently. And that consistency leads to much better results, much better long-term foot health.
Okay, so to make this really concrete, let's look at some actual examples. We've got a few specific shoe models here that are designed with these principles in mind, aimed at men with neuropathy. Let's start with the Apis 9501. These are described as extra-depth dress shoes, so blending style and therapy.
Right. And what's notable about the 9501 is, they don't scream orthopedic shoe. They look like a classic dress shoe.
Which is important for work or formal stuff.
Hugely important for many men. But inside that classic look, they've built in the features we've discussed. Soft leather uppers and linings to minimize rubbing. A good shock-absorbing EVA outsole. And they have what's called a firm medial and lateral counter that provides stability, helps with alignment.
And the extra depth.
Yep, the extra depth is there to fit custom orthotics if you need them.
So it sounds like a solid choice if you need the support, but need to look professional too.
Definitely.
Okay, next up, the Apis 504 Super Depth boots. Super Depth sounds like even more room. These seem geared towards more significant issues.
They are. The 504 boots are really engineered for men who might have more advanced neuropathy or perhaps significant foot deformities, like bad hammer toes or bunions or even major swelling.
So triple depth means a lot of space.
A very generous amount of internal volume, yes. Crucial for accommodating those more severe conditions. They also have that seamless vamp lining we talked about to cut down friction,
Okay.
and a practical touch, a side zipper. That can be really helpful for guys who might find laces difficult due to dexterity issues.
Good point.
Plus, the higher boot shaft, 8 inches, gives more ankle stability and protection. And there's padding around the collar for comfort at the ankle. These really are about maximum protection and accommodation.
Sounds very robust. Okay, let's move to the Apis 801, another classic Oxford design. Again, aiming for that timeless look, but with therapeutic features. What's the story here?
The 801 hits that classic Oxford style, so again, suitable for work, but it offers super depth.
Super depth, even more than extra.
Apparently so. This could be particularly good for men who deal with a lot of edema, swelling, especially higher up on the foot, like the instep or ankle area.
Right.
And importantly, they mentioned these are compatible with things like AFOs, ankle foot orthoses, and Arizona braces. So versatile for different medical needs.
Okay, so they can work with other devices.
Yes. And you still get the essentials. Extra room in the toe box, which we know is key for nerve endings, and adjustable laces. That adjustability is great if your swelling changes during the day.
So even with complex needs, there are options that still look pretty standard and can integrate braces. That's good to know.
It is.
All right, athletic shoes. The Apis 9704V athletic walking shoes. For guys wanting to stay active.
Yeah, the 9704V is about combining function and comfort for activity. A big feature here is the double Velcro straps.
Easier than laces if you have swelling or trouble bending.
Much easier for quick adjustments, definitely. They also have double depth construction, so good room for moderate to severe foot conditions, and a breathable mesh upper that helps manage moisture and heat, which is important.
Yeah, sweaty feet and neuropathy don't mix well.
Not ideal, no. These are also designed to accommodate various orthotics and braces, like AFOs or KFOs, and have a supportive structure overall to help with pressure distribution, balance, and just a more stable walk.
Really encouraging that there are athletic options that tick all those therapeutic boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Allows men to keep moving more safely.
Absolutely.
Okay, one more. The Apis 9951 casual Chika boots.
Mhm.
A more relaxed style here. What are the benefits?
The 9951 Chicas offer that casual everyday look but still pack in the therapeutic punches. They're noted as being lightweight, soft Napa leather, injected EVA sole, which can be really helpful if fatigue or mobility is an issue.
Lighter is definitely better sometimes.
For sure. You've got the seamless leather linings again, minimizing friction, the extra depth design for orthotics and deformities, removable inserts so you can customize further, and a padded collar and tongue for comfort around the ankle. It's a solid choice for casual wear without compromising on foot health.
Okay, so we've run through quite a range there. Dress shoes, heavy-duty boots, professional Oxfords that work with braces, athletic walkers, casual boots.
Yeah, it really shows that whatever your lifestyle needs, there are likely therapeutic footwear options out there for men dealing with neuropathy.
And it highlights how important it is to think about your specific situation, right? Like, do you have a lot of swelling, any deformities, trouble with laces?
Exactly. Considering those individual factors is key to finding the best match.
So if we were to just quickly recap the main benefits we're looking for from the right footwear.
Sure, I'd say it boils down to these key things. Good shock absorption, really crucial pressure redistribution to avoid those ulcers. Improved stability and gait for safer movement, breathable materials to keep the foot environment healthy, and that adaptability accommodating swelling, fitting orthotics.
Got it. So let's bring this home for everyone listening. If you're a man and you're managing neuropathy in your feet, the big message here is your footwear. It's not just something you put on, it's a really vital tool for your self-care.
It truly is. It offers that essential protection, it improves your comfort, and honestly, it can make a huge difference in maintaining your mobility, your independence.
Which really emphasizes why you need to be proactive, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Take proactive steps. Get to know your own feet. What are your specific needs? Is swelling an issue? Are there sensitive spots? Any deformities starting?
And once you know that,
Then you actively look for shoes that have the features we've been talking about today. That extra depth, the seamless inside, the right cushioning, the roomy toe box, the supportive midsole. Be an informed shopper.
and look, please don't feel you have to figure this all out alone. Talk to the professionals.
Yes. Consulting with your podiatrist, or maybe a podorthist. There's specialists in footwear and orthotics.
The Ahmed study even mentioned podorthists specifically, right? As trained professionals for assessment and providing medical-grade footwear.
That's right. They can give you personalized recommendations based on your feet, your situation. They can be incredibly helpful in navigating the options and finding the best solutions.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought, a way to frame this.
Yeah.
Has you listening right now really thought about therapeutic footwear as more than just something you have to wear?
Shifting the perspective.
Yeah. Maybe it's time to see it differently. Like maybe it's actually a proactive investment, an investment in your long-term health, your well-being, your ability to stay active and engaged in life.
I like that. An investment, not just a necessity.
Exactly. So as you go about your day, maybe think about this.
Yeah.
Choosing and using the right footwear, it isn't about limitation. It's actually empowering. Well, it's a concrete step you can take right now to significantly improve how you feel day to day, and crucially, to actively lower your risk of those really serious complications we discussed.
It's about taking control.
It is taking control, prioritizing your foot health, and ultimately stepping forward with a bit more confidence and maybe a bit more peace of mind too.